Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining our final admitted student chat with our panel of current Greystone students and your future classmates. My name is Ella Crawford. I am an admissions counselor here at the Culinary Institute of America at Greystone here in lovely California. As the world's premier culinary college and leader in the food and hospitality industry, our students have an immense amount of deserved pride to call CIA home. All of our students are exceptional because of the passion, talent, and work ethic they put into making their culinary dreams come true. I'm always impressed with how much they learn and are capable of after just 19 months. And we are so excited that you will be joining this community of independent thinkers and creative entrepreneurs. So once again, from all of us at Greystone, welcome to your new school. Now let's go ahead and get to know our panelists. I'd like everyone to introduce themselves by giving your degree, which semester you're in, and if you hold a position on campus, what that is. I'm gonna go ahead and start with Oliver Phillips. Oliver, would you mind turning your camera and microphone on and introducing yourself to our audience today?
Hello, everyone. I'm Oliver Phillips. I'm a 5th semester baking and pastry student here at the Greystone campus. And yeah, just hi.
Thank you, Oliver, so much for joining. Jasenna, do you mind introducing yourself, degree, semester, what role you maintain on campus?
Hi guys, I'm Jasenna. I'm a 2nd semester culinary student here. I'm also an RA in the Vineyard Lodge 1 building, as well as I'm the group leader of my AOS section.
Wonderful. Now I'm going to have Mr. Dominic. Will you introduce yourself, degree, semester, role on campus?
Hi guys, I'm Dominic, a 5th semester baking student in the same class as Oliver here at Greystone, and I am the Spice President on campus.
And then Sierra, do you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, I'm Sierra Morgan. I'm a 5th semester culinary student. I'm doing my associates now, but I will be starting my bachelor's next semester. At my time at Greystone, I've been an RA. I've been on the Spice board. I'm a tutor. I've done basically every position on campus so far. But yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sierra. And then finally, but certainly much appreciated to be here, Rami, do you mind introducing yourself to our audience today?
Hello, everyone. I'm Rami Ibrahim, and I'm a 1st semester culinary student here.
So definitely Rami's experience will be one to listen to, since he's currently in his 1st semester, which all of you will soon be as well. So we can kind of give some more insights into what that's like. So like I said, please feel free to submit questions to us for our current students. And then we also have a couple of people in the background there who are going to be helping answer those as well. So just to get started, I know a question that we oftentimes ask our students in these admission panels: why did you decide CIA? Oliver, I'm going to have you go ahead and start.
All right. Well, I mean, as Ella said in the beginning, like, if you want to be the best, you got to learn from the best. CIA definitely has all the tools, and, they're set up to give you the best experience and expose you to everything you could possibly need before you actually head out into the industry. And, I met Allison, one of our other admissions counselors, through ProStart competitions and college tours. And, she listed all the benefits of, coming here, and, it's lived up to my expectations. And you really do get the greatest view you possibly could for the industry you want to be in. So.
Absolutely. And Sierra, since you were one of our students you were looking at a couple of different schools before you eventually decided on CIA, do you mind talking a little bit about what swayed your decision, what ultimately drew you to the Greystone campus?
Yeah, so before I was going to come to CIA, I was actually considering almost 3 or 4 other schools. But CIA has always been my dream spot. And I think the biggest reason I actually came here was because of our admissions counselor, Allison. She showed me the school so many times because I was just constantly wanting to be here. And I got to know so many people on campus before I even got here. And I just knew that the experience that I was going to have and the people that I was going to meet here were the people that were going to get me through this industry. So.
That's such a great answer. I know that being on campus, we are often talking about how Greystone is such a tight-knit community, and it really does feel like a family. Rami, do you mind talking a little bit more about, that Greystone family and what that feels like? What is the community of students and staff and faculty on campus?
Absolutely. The staff always encourages open communication, and a lot of the teachers too. While the chefs are mainly for instruction, the faculty is so friendly. I feel like it's so easy to go talk to anybody whenever I need it, and that they're really there to help me out. I've had problem when I first came here. I didn't know if I would have a place to live, and I was chased down by faculty saying, "What's going on? Let's figure this out." So they really are looking out for the best for you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Jasena, we have a question coming in from a student, and I'm going to go ahead and direct it over to you. This admitted student wants to know, what is the best way to prepare for first semester at CIA?
That's a wonderful question. I definitely had the same question when I was making my way out here. I would say if you can reach out to anyone that's already at the CIA, that's a huge thing. I know that there's a accepted students group chat on Facebook, and a lot of people talk about like what they want to bring to campus, things like that, as well as like books and stuff like that. I think the main thing is making sure that you have everything that's going to make you comfortable. So like for myself, I knew I immediately was going to need a lot of coffee. So you can see right here, I have a coffee machine. I also have a couple other ways to make coffee. And that was like one of the first things I thought about, as well as like I wanted comfortable bedding or other reasonable things like, I think it's about right there. There's a water pitcher. I think that's really important. Like the water, yes, is potable, but it doesn't always taste super awesome. So definitely things like that, as well as like planning for things that, especially if it's like your first time out of the house, like maybe looking around the area. Like I spent a lot of time just kind of like zooming in and out on the map of like, oh, I want to try this coffee shop, or I want to go look at this store, or I want to go grocery shop at this place and stuff like that, and kind of getting familiar with your area, as well as like looking at the dress code and things like that of what you want to pack in terms of like business professional clothing, as well as getting your chef lights in order and all of that.
Right. Like figuring out what is going to make you feel comfortable being away from home. What is it that you absolutely need to feel like you're at a home, and just feeling excited about being in this really beautiful area and having all of this phenomenal foods and culture just at your fingertips. Absolutely. Yeah. Now, Rami, is there anything that you would add on to that? Is there, anything that, students should make sure that they're doing when they're coming into the college, preparing for the school? You're in your first semester. Was there anything particular where you're like, gosh, I wish I knew that before I came in?
Mainly that there was like extra cost besides just having my chef's uniform, my shoes, making sure I had pens, having a computer, just being prepared in general with a lot of items, clothing, and my business casual clothes too. It's an opportunity to like go out and, look professional. So.
Yeah. Now we're going to kind of move forward here. I've got a lot of questions coming in from our admitted students, so I'm happy to see that. Now, Dominic, I'm going to ask this next one to you since you're close to finishing up. You're about to graduate right after you do your internship. One of our admitted students wants to know, how well are we at connecting our current students with our alumni network and finding opportunities after graduation? What does that process look like on campus, and what resources are available to our students?
That is a great question. We have a faculty member, Jenny Waltz. She is like our career planning, and she does a lot of things for us for externship, and we have like our Culinary Connect online. So it's all these restaurants and bakeries and hotels that you can choose from, and you can get in contact with the chef and the owner of the business, and she can walk you through every single step that can help you find work, or if you want to get like an externship somewhere, she's there to help you, and she's going to be the one that can help you the most.
Yeah, and so we really do, feel, like I said earlier, that pride of being a CIA student, a CIA alum. And so one of the things that's always, I think, amazed me about this school is like alumni really do want to connect with you, whether that's figuring out what's the next best option once you graduate, or even just, what have other people done with this degree? I mean, would you agree, Dominic? It's very easy to get into contact with other people in the community.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know that I have gone and I've talked to Jenny, and she was just like, there was a student who externed at this shop. If you want to get in contact with her, this is her information through email. Like, feel free to ask her any question. I'll let her know that she's going to come talk to you or something. And it's great.
Yeah, just like that.
Yeah,
all
exactly.
right. Yeah, Oliver, this next question is for you. One of our admitted students wants to know, what is the most difficult part of CIA?
Ooh.
It's a good question. I don't know. I'm curious as to what your answer is.
It's a good question, only because it's a hard question to really think about, because everything you do here has some degree of difficulty. You're learning, you're in this new environment, you're getting settled into this this kitchen world that some people might not have the experience or the understanding for yet. But I'd just say keeping up. There's so much going on. This industry is constantly changing, and just as soon as you think you're like, oh, I know this part, and then the whole nother portion opens up, and so there's just so many avenues you can take when it comes to either baking and pastry or culinary arts, and so keeping up with everything is just is a game of its own. So I'd say that's the most difficult thing.
Well, and one of our students asked, why is the first semester the hardest at CIA? And I guess my question for you first is, do you think that the first semester is hardest? And, if not, which semester is and why?
I would definitely say it is. It's kind of setting the tone for your rest of your time here. It's like, can you make the cut? Are you really passionate about what this is? Because, we do a lot of stuff here. There's a lot of work to do in the kitchen and outside of the kitchen. And, if this isn't your thing, you won't want to do it. You won't be motivated to do it. But I mean, if you have a passion for food, and everything we do is really encompasses that. So if you really love it, you won't have to worry about it. And it doesn't seem like work, like writing a 10-page paper on lemon meringue pie is easy because you love lemon meringue pie, all the aspects of it, how it's made, and what goes into what. And it just, before you know it, you're already over the limit by 2 pages. And, it's going to be fun to read, but it's so, yeah, it's
that's a great answer.
It's worth it. And, in the end, you really come out knowing this is where you're supposed to be.
Yeah. I think that you nailed it, right? When you are loving what you do, you never have to work a day in your life for something along those lines, right? All right, so this next question is I'm going to ask Rami, because I know that you do live off campus. And so this student says he's a bit of an older student and is looking to live off campus. What is the best way to find off-campus housing?
I had quite a lot of difficulty with that. It was worth it for me, but I used Craigslist. And I tried to make some friends at first over the internet and do that, but it was a dice roll, really. And fortunately, I ended up with some good people, but Craigslist.
Yeah, and if I can add on, when I moved into Napa, I was using websites like Zillow Rentals. Roomies.com is another good one, very similar to Craigslist, where it's, people looking for roommates or have rooms available in houses. Apartments.com has rentals, but if you're looking for roommates or to live with other people, which is definitely the cheapest way to live in the Valley, then definitely Craigslist or Roomies is going to be the best place to do that. Now, first year students are guaranteed housing on campus, and so it's not a requirement, you don't have to take it, but it is available for everyone. And I would say that we have a pretty large age range of students who do take the housing on campus. And so to that point, I have another student who wants to know what the dorm life is like on campus. Jacenna, you're our RA. Would you mind talking a little bit more about what dorm life is like, and also, what the diversity in the dorms is like?
Absolutely. When I first got here last semester and I was like walking up to the dorms, I was very like taken back because I was expecting them to be a lot worse, and like much more run down, much more like freshman dorms at a normal college. But getting into my room, I was in Vineyard Lodge 2 the first semester, and it felt like checking into like a really nice hotel. I really enjoy it. I think the dorm life is more akin to like an apartment or a hotel in that sense, especially because a lot of us have our own bathrooms or we share them with only one other room. So that's really nice, as well as like there's common areas. They do have lower capacity right now, but you know, being in the common areas, you can catch up with people and meet new friends and stuff like that. I think the dorm life is, especially like your first semester, and especially if you're in guest house, it makes it a little bit easier to get yourself to class, or like if you forgot something, you can just go run back and grab it. I definitely would recommend like being in guest house if you're a first semester, because you're already on campus. You don't have to wait for the shuttle or anything to get to and from the dorms if you don't have a mode of transportation, as well as like there's always going to be a day that you forget your hat or your towels or your apron, and you're going to need to go run and get it. And it's nice if it's that close.
Yeah, and can you speak a little bit about what these sort of events that RAs host are like? You know, what are the RAs doing in the dorms to keep that sense of community alive despite, you know, social distancing measures?
Absolutely. So a lot of the RAs, we host a minimum of 2 programs a semester. So for myself, I did a Get to Know Greystone scavenger hunt at the beginning of the semester. So that was a COVID-safe scavenger hunt that you could go with your little group of friends, and it was over the weekend, so that you could do it at your own leisure. And different facts about the campus and stuff like that. So getting to know that, and all of the facts were provided from faculty. So building that relationship with faculty, you could go up to them with the fact that they provided, like, hey, I heard about the giant fork and that you submitted this fact, and I thought it was really interesting. I wanted to talk to you about it. A fun fact is that there's an actual bouquet garni inside the fork.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, I'm sure it's far rotted by now, but it's in there. And so things like that. A lot of the RAs, we also like try and take some time, and like when we go back into the buildings, if there's people in the common area, we'll stand and chat with them for a little while. Of course, like seeing them when we're on campus, we'll do our best to talk to them as well then too. It is hard with all of the measures and stuff like that, but I think especially like in Vineyard Lodge 1, the buildings are like all of the halls, you end up seeing a lot of people in the common area, and so that sense of community really kind of builds itself, because you know, there isn't like, oh, this hall against that hall. We don't do like competitions or anything like that, but we sit and talk with each other. And there's some people that they like to play Overcook or something like that. It's a game on a Nintendo Switch that's really fun. If anyone's in Vineyard Lodge 1, ask our SRA Kat Veray. She loves that game. It will definitely make you question who's your friend in the kitchen.
Which I'm sure everyone can get really into that.
Oh,
all right, so kind of continuing within that line of, you know, student activities, Dominic, as SPICE president, do you mind talking a bit more about some of the other community events that, you know, you and your team has put on this past semester?
Yeah, there's been so many.
Your favorite ones, the ones that come immediately to mind.
Gosh, we actually just did a food drive, and we had a big success with that. We actually made it a contest between each house. So like the Vineyard Lodge 1 and VL2, and then for guest house, and then for each house that's off campus that we have here for school, the winner got ice cream for the entire housing. And VL1 was the winner for this one. But we had a huge turnout, and the food bank was very, very thankful. And, you know, that was a big impact that we had, and it was a great time running it.
Yeah, I like that sort of incorporation of, you know, food bank, obviously food, something very near and dear to all of our hearts, but also kind of acting as that bridge between our Greystone community, but then our larger Napa County community, and pulling our own resources into that. I think that was a really cool one. The other one that I liked a lot was when you did Nutella Day. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I think it was February 5th was World Nutella Day, and we had ordered a bunch of small little packets of Nutella that when all the students walked in, they received a free packet of Nutella, and everybody loved it. I mean, unless you didn't like Nutella, but we got a lot of great talk about it, and I'm sure they would love to do it again next year.
Yeah, I know that I also received a thing of Nutella as I was walking in, and when I got to my desk, I was like, only at CIA.
Yeah.
I thought the Nutella was wonderful.
Yeah.
I got like 5 and they're still in my backpack. After class snack, highly recommended.
Get some strawberries. It's just
Right, of course. All right, so we have a question coming in about cars and whether or not they are necessary to get around on campus. Sierra, I will actually have you go ahead and answer this.
As you can see, I'm in my car talking to you guys right now. I think having a car it's really beneficial. At first, I didn't think I was going to need one. And I was like, oh, I'll just have my mom drop me off or something. But I realized that going to the grocery store is almost a half-hour walk if you're taking your time like I do. And so sometimes if you're starving, you're just gonna want to drive. And then sometimes if you live in the VLs, it's really hard to get to campus and line your schedule up with the shuttle. So having a car is really nice. That in St. Helena is kind of a small little town. We don't really have anything here. Our biggest store is the Safeway. So if you really need something like hangers or something like that, you have to drive all the way to Napa to go to a Target. So it's really nice to have a car. And if you don't have a car, find yourself a friend who has a car.
Yeah, and I would say that there are a lot of people on campus who have cars and are definitely willing to, help everyone out. And a note on that, there's no parking permit on campus. And so it's free to have a car on campus as well. And there's plenty of parking at the residential halls as well as on campus. And Sierra mentioned the shuttle. We do have a shuttle that runs about every 15 to 20 minutes from the dorms to the building. And so you do have access to that. And it's a very quick way to get to campus, but the residential halls are also less than a mile from campus, and you may not want to do that walk in the morning when you're tired and whatever hungry, but it is not a terribly long walk if you're anxious at all about that. But we do live out in the country, we're surrounded on all sides by beautiful vineyards. And while that is a wonderful, you can see Jacena's window in the background there is just vineyards all the way down. And while that's very cool, it can be certainly helpful to have a car to get from town to town within the county. All right, thank you everyone so much for these great answers. We're gonna keep going here. Now I've got one particular this is actually coming from a parent who would like to know a bit more about what kind of culinary experience you had before coming into the school. And so Rami, I know that you actually had some previous industry experience, so I'll have you first answer as someone who previously had industry experience, what that transition was like. And then I'll switch to someone else who I know didn't come in with professional industry experience.
Sure. So I'm 23 and I've been cooking, getting paid to cook since I was 14. And I just never stopped. It's the only job I've had, whether working front of house or back of house, it's been with food. And the transition to here, it was fairly easy. I mean, I was really used to what a kitchen was like already and what it's like to be on a line and rely and work with other people. So really I'm here. I mean, I always can improve, but the main thing I'm getting now is the fundamentals and the classic cooking stuff. I'm really able to actually focus on that more.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I oftentimes hear from people who have previous industry experience is, when you're learning on the line, it's not like your chef really has the time to teach you the why of things, why food behaves the way that it does, why you have to use one technique over the other. And at times it can mean that you are sort of forced to learn bad habits. And so like coming to CIA, you actually have chef instructors who can really take the time to explain all of that fully out. And you're in an environment where you're being really nurtured and encouraged to be your best chef or best baker or whatever that is. Has that been your experience as well?
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
Okay, great. I'm happy to hear that. Sierra, you came in right out of high school. Do you mind talking a little bit about, do you feel like you really needed industry experience, or was the transition straight out of high school? Was this a good one? Did you, what was that like?
So I got here when I was 17. I had just turned 17. So I was the youngster at school. I actually did have experience before I got here. I started cooking, getting paid to cook when I was 13. And I worked about 2 jobs my entire time through high school. So I actually thought that the transition to school was like a really great experience. Like Ella was saying, the like understanding the why. Another thing to like consider, it was a little bit hard because I had learned my ways already. And so it was really great to see that like the chefs were like, so we see that you do that on a line, but you're at school now. So we're going to teach you the technical, perfect way to do it. And that was like the most amazing experience and the most like beneficial thing that I think I've learned here.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we're going to switch to a couple of different kind of questions. Our students definitely work very, very hard, but they also are in a beautiful area and have a fantastic community around them. So I would love to hear about, what you all do on the weekends for fun. Dominic, I'm going to have you answer this question. What do you do for fun on the weekends?
I work at the farmer's market in Napa. On Saturdays, I sell bread. I make bread at a bakery in Napa. I'm there every Saturday, and that whole community of vendors and all the people there who come, they just love to see what you do, and they appreciate all the hard work that you put into your product. And it's great to see the same people come every single week. We open at 8 and there's a line at 7:30, and we close at 12, and there's people who come at 11:30, unfortunately, when we have no more bread, but they still come and get it, and it's great. And before that, I was working at a chocolate shop, and even that community is incredible. Oliver knows I worked there with him as well. And, all the chefs know each other in that small little area. So you get to connect with all these different people from all these different restaurants, and you get to see all the people come in and they'll watch you and they'll be like, how is this done? And you can like show them and talk to them as you're doing it. And this whole community out here is great.
Yeah, absolutely. I love being in Napa Valley for this very tight-knit community. And of course, everyone loves food. And that's something that draws us all together, not only at Greystone, but also in the surrounding county. Now, Justana, as someone who came right out of high school into an area that's most well known for its wine, what do you do for fun, on the weekends?
Yeah, that's definitely one of the things that like a lot of people like to go do on the weekends, and I'm like, cool, have fun,
right?
Your thing. But I usually on Saturdays I usually run my errands, and I like to walk into town, so I'll walk and then I'll go get a coffee. I really like the Napa Valley Coffee Roasters. They make my favorite cappuccino. So I go there and I get a coffee, and then I walk to Model, and I'm like, maybe I'll have a pastry, maybe I'll get a loaf of bread, and then I'll go and like, if I need to go get any groceries, I'll do that. As well as I like to sit in the park, either in town, directly like next to the police station, or at the edge of town, closer to the high school. A little bit further, I like to go to Napa and just kind of like bebop around there. There's always fun things you can find yourself doing, and just kind of exploring. It's everything's close, but somehow you can't really ever find everything. You know, like as much as you go out on the weekends, even if you find a new area each weekend, there's always still something that you haven't seen before. So you're just kind of looking around and doing stuff like that. I also like I'll grocery shop on Saturday, and then I'll like pick one meal that I'm going to make for myself that like I wouldn't have normally. So like last weekend I got like beans and rice, and I got some tomatoes and avocados, and I keep chicken in my fridge, and so I made chicken tacos and rice and beans, and it was great. And I sat and I watched a movie. I have a blank wall over here, so I put a projector there and I ate my tacos. I had a blast.
So for our students who are under 21, there are still things to do.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, so Oliver, we have one admitted student who wants to know, and I think that this is a really great question. Do you feel you'll be prepared to enter the industry after graduation?
Oh, for sure. Definitely, you know, but there's still a lot to learn. As much as you know, I mean, you will be well prepared. You know, you leave this school with such a great platform of knowledge, and yeah. No, I don't even know how to express it, because you really do. You have all the tools you really need to learn and grow and, you know, actually become a moving part of this industry. Don't get me wrong. You know, these are all the foundations, but it's the best foundation you could possibly get. Perfect jumping off point for your first job in the industry. And, you know, even now, like Dominic said, I work at a chocolate shop, and I've been complimented on my skills. Just like, oh my gosh, like, you know, usually people come in here, you know, they're kind of confused. They don't know what's going on. And, you know, as soon as I started talking about the polymorphic, like, states of cocoa butter, my chef was absolutely like, whoa, like what's going on here? So, but no, definitely you have a wonderful foundation. You're more than ready to head out into the industry, and you'll be impressed with how much you really know.
Yeah, and to kind of follow up on that, Rami, this was something that you and I were talking about earlier this week. How has your, you know, technique in the kitchen at home, or your grocery shopping, or how has your cooking at home changed since starting at CIA?
Yeah, already from like the first month, I've taken a way more professional approach. Even as somebody who's worked with food for a long time, just having been here for the little time I have, already I'm grocery shopping differently. Recently in a science lecture, we learned how to just like start assembling meals in our heads and learning how to cook with certain vegetables just by knowing what they were made out of. So now I can go to the store and have a way easier time about picking what I'm gonna cook that day. I've applied so much already, and it's awesome. It's really rewarding because it's evidence that you're getting good education.
It's palpable, right? You can see it every single day.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm actually going to ask this next one to you as well, Rami, because you're originally from Minnesota, and this student wants to know, what is the weather normally like here in Northern California?
Well, let's just say I was never expected to be wearing a t-shirt in January. There was a week here that was like 75 degrees for a week. Most of the days it's blue skies. You do have some rain, but I love the rain. And it's just lovely here. Yeah. I mean, I'm used to like -40 in the winter, and being able to ride with my windows down, nothing really compares. I've never been any place this beautiful.
Right. Yeah. And even just like walking into work every day, I love the view from across the street of the vineyards, and then just the mountain region, and of course, blue skies with maybe some beautiful clouds, but it's paradise here. And I know every single one of us are so thankful for it every single day. All right. So we've got a lot of questions still coming in. One of our students is wanting to know what the meal plan is like. Sierra, I'm going to have you answer that one. What is the meal plan like at CIA? Where do you get your food?
So we go to the place called the TK, which is our teaching kitchen. All the food is pretty much laid out in the center for us. We have 3 meals a day on campus. We have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And there's always dessert, which is the best part. Lunch and dinner is usually prepared by some students. And then we also have our faculty members that'll work on it as well, which we call our TAs. So there's always plenty of food. And even if you have like dietary restrictions or anything like that, they're always super like considerate of that. So like I don't eat any meat, and so I've always been able to eat here. Like I've never had a problem trying to find a meal. And then like I said, desserts is always the best. So
I'm sure our bakers and baking and pastry students are really excited, happy to hear that. Okay, so Dominic, I'm going to ask you this next question. One of our students wants to know if you can go over a little bit more about the dress code on campus. So obviously Rami is actually wearing his chef white, so you can see an example of that. But this student in particular, wants to know when you're not in your chef whites, and do you mind talking about the dress code and like what you typically see students on campus wearing?
Yeah, of course. If you're not in whites, it's always in business casual. If you have like slacks or like a nice pair of pants, some dress shoes, a shirt, like a button up or like a polo shirt, always tucked in if possible. Like a nice coat over that. A lot of chefs will get on you, if you are not in dress code. My first semester, Chef Brown was here still. And I think it was like my first week here, I was wearing a flannel over a shirt and it wasn't buttoned. And he looked at me and said, "Go button up your shirt or go home and change." And I was like, okay. So I buttoned up my shirt and he's like, "Now tuck it in." I was like, "Yeah, chef." So I did. And ever since then, I dressed a lot nicer, and he would just be like, "Thank you for dressing nice. There's some kids here who still don't fully understand, but they're still new. So I'm sure that they will get used to it. But, always in business casual, if not in your chef whites."
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to at times explain exactly what the dress code is because, everyone dresses a little bit differently, and what kind of clothes that you have, available to you changes. But a good rule of thumb that I stole from Sophia Wise, so you may have heard this before, which is, dress like you would for an interview. And I think that that's probably the best way to think about it. You want to be professional, clean cut. We have a lot of people on campus who could potentially be some future like career networking opportunities for you. So you want to make sure that you're always sort of dressing for the job that you want, right? And this is something that not only our students have to follow, but also our staff and our faculty. So we're all kind of held to this same standard, and that's a part of being the excellence that CIA strives for. Thank you, Dominic. I'm sure that will help calm a lot of fears around the dress code. Sierra, I'm going to ask this question to you. One of our admitted students wants to know, how do underage students do in the wines class in your 5th semester? How does that work?
So I'm actually in my wines class right now, and I actually love it. But we are not allowed to drink anything. We're not allowed to put any alcohol into our mouths at all. So we're only allowed to sniff, but it does seem like it's going to be like a very ineffective class for you, but it really is. It's like exactly the opposite of what I thought it would be. I thought that I wasn't going to learn as much because I couldn't taste, but I've learned so much in just my first couple of classes, and being able to smell is actually probably, it's like the biggest gift that we have here, especially for the wines class, because I found that I'm still able to smell all the things that these people, like the people around me, are drinking and tasting, but just by smelling it. So you still learn just as much, if not more.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the things that we always say in admissions, which is, we find that even our students who don't drink at all, whether they're underage or they're just not drinkers, they have the tendency to do even better in the class, and maybe that's because they're not, right? They're having to rely on other senses, and it kind of makes them even better at it. Thank you for clarifying that. Now, Dominic, I'm going to go back to you since I asked you about the dress code, and I think this question is in follow-up to that. One of our students wants to know if when you first arrive on campus that first day of orientation, should they dress interview ready or should they be casual? What would you recommend for them?
For our move-in day, I was prepared to dress in casual. Just because I was told that we were just going to be moving in, and for that first day it was casual. But when you're on campus for orientation, it was business casual always. I know back when the before time, before COVID, on the first floor, because we had guests there still, we could dress in casual, but you weren't allowed to go upstairs in casual. Since there are no guests, it's been a little more strict. So if you're on campus at all, it's business casual. But for orientation, I would say just be prepared in your business casual.
Yeah, you don't have to wear a suit. You don't have to wear, tux, nothing like that. But yeah, make sure if you have a flannel on, it's buttoned up and tucked in.
Yeah.
Okay, Rami, I would love to hear from you a little bit more about what your experience has been like with the chef instructors.
It's so far, so I have Chef Sarah, and it's very curt and professional. Not much is discussed in that class except what we're working on. Sure, I'd like a little more, talking about outside of class and maybe her life a bit, but it's clear that her passion is with cooking and getting us to learn what we're there to learn.
Yeah.
So I've seen other chefs too have different styles, but I'll keep it like that, curt and professional.
And I think that, for your very first culinary fundamentals, you want someone like Chef Sarah who's going to give you exactly what you need and provide you with that very structural foundation. And I know that the other chef instructors really rely on her to provide that to those incoming students, because that's what they then later build off on for your more advanced classes. And for the baking and pastry side, Oliver, do you mind talking a little bit more about what your experience has been like with the baking and pastry instructors?
Oh, of course. We talk about a lot, everything's around food, and whether it's Chef Isaac telling you how he has to plug his oven vent in order to get the right crumb on his bread when he's baking at home, or Chef Brown talking about these Navajo tacos that he found up in Angwin. Everything's surrounded by food. It all has the intent and purpose of teaching and helping you grow, but you get to know your chefs. Ella said it before, we're a community here, and they're just as passionate about food as you are. And so you kind of get into these conversations about food, and, next thing you know, your 10 minutes has blown by, and, you have to get back to production. But they give you great perspective on, because they've all been working in the industry before. Chef Isaac is a certified master baker. Chef Angela Salvatore had just worked at Water Bar, a really nice restaurant in San Francisco. And so all these chefs come from different walks of life, and they give you great perspectives on where you might want to go in your future, and just a wealth of knowledge, honestly.
And they want to get to know you, right? They want to genuinely hear your story and know what your dreams are. And whenever I talk to chef instructors and ask them, what's your very favorite part of your role here? And consistently what I hear is, seeing what the students then go off and do, and getting to hear about it later on. When alums will message them and be like, I'm still using the technique you taught me second semester. That's the thing that they love to see, because they have an immense amount of respect for the fact that they're training the next best chefs, And Jacenna, kind of switching over to you, can you talk a little bit about your experience with chef instructors? And then I also know that you have a great story that I would love for you to share.
Absolutely. I also had Chef Sarah from my fundies class, and like Rami was saying, it's really nice that she's very strict and very straightforward, level-headed, and it really gets you in the mindset of how you need to act in the kitchen. I think it's a really good introduction into what's going to be happening in the future semesters. Second semester and on, you do switch your chef instructors every 3 weeks for the block. So beginning of this semester, I had Chef Almir for my high volume class, and it was during our breakfast production section, and we were working on fruit boxes that day. It was a very, very easy day for my team. We were doing omelets and fruit, and we were kind of messing around with them, trying to make them look nice, and one of my teammates was doing the fruit and I was doing something else, and I was like, oh, why don't you make them into stars? And she was like, what do you mean? And so I grabbed a strawberry and I'm turning them into stars. And then Chef Almir kind of saunters over and he's like, here, let me show you. And he's got a really thick accent, and he was eating something earlier, so you could kind of see his mustache. Very important for Chef Almir's character. And he comes over and he grabs my paring knife, and he's starting to take the strawberry and turn it into a rose. But the whole time he's not paying attention at all. And I know my paring knife is very sharp, and he's just directly pointing it at his thumb the whole time. And at one point he was just chopping down straight towards his thumb. And as he's doing this, whenever chef goes to a station, everyone kind of is like, what's happening over there? So the rest of the class kind of just congregated closer and closer, and chef is just turning it into this beautiful roast. It looked dead on like a roast too, and I've tried to recreate it. The problem was I was too enamored with what was happening that I forgot to pay attention. Definitely don't do that. But you're just doing that and having a full-on conversation of how we used to have to do a ton of them for this one thing where he did breakfast service and he'd stand there and do them all day and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, after that and he had walked away, it like occurred to me, it was like, that's what I pay for. The interactions with chefs, that's what you pay the good money for, is being around these chefs and having those conversations with them that you maybe wouldn't get in a different school.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And my favorite part of that story is that he's like barely paying attention the whole time.
Just knife straight towards his thumb, absolutely no regard for it.
Right. Like looking in a completely different direction, checking out something else. Yeah. And you're right. This is, I mean, these are some of the best chef instructors that, you can get: certified master chefs, James Beard Award winners, certified master bakers as well. And they're here because they want to teach. They want to teach the next generation of great chefs. All right. So I would like to switch over to talking a bit more about some of the cultural aspects on campus, and hearing a bit more about some of our traditions. So Jason, I'm going to kind of go back to you. Would you mind talking a little bit about some of the events and traditions that students can expect when they come onto campus next semester or in 2 semesters?
Absolutely. So one of the things that is like a continuity between all of the semesters is that for commencement, all of the students do this procession through the atrium all the way up the stairs, and everyone takes pots and pans and they just bang the heck out of them, make all the noise possible. And if you don't know what's happening that day, it sounds like you can't hear yourself think. But it's absolutely wonderful. It's the most I feel like if you were to boil something down and figure out like what's CIA, it's that right there, that all of us are so excited that they're graduating that we're just like banging pots and pans, no regard for anything else, can't hear anything, just like, yeah, graduation. It's absolutely wonderful. I didn't know it was happening at the time. When it happened last semester, I knew it was going to happen that day, but they didn't like give a heads up like, hey, we're going to bang pots and pans now. And then all of a sudden, just everything else is drowned out. I think that's really fun. I'm very, very much looking forward to that when it's my turn to walk up the stairs. Another couple of things is like RAs do events every semester, as well as like Spice and stuff like that. So like last semester we had, it was during Halloween, so we did pumpkin carving. That was really fun. They did that like kind of a little bit of a contest, but not really a contest. So we did that outside Vineyard Lodge 1 and 2. As well as there was like a scavenger hunt. We tend to do scavenger hunts. There was one over the Thanksgiving break to kind of keep people occupied while we're here, because some people don't go home for Thanksgiving break. I did a scavenger hunt as one of my first events. There's always some sort of food related event, as one would expect. So like this weekend we have make your own Muddy Buddies. In a couple weekends we have make your own apple crumble. I know they've done like mac and cheese and mug cakes and things like that, as well as there's one RA that loves to do a laundry event. So to show you guys how to get certain stains out of your chef whites, because there's an inevitable day when you're going to be making pensage and you're going to get tomato paste all over the front of your chef whites. And it's going to be awful, and you're going to try and figure out how to get it out, and nothing works. So I definitely would recommend going to that, because we got lots of little tips and tricks. So you're going to get like a Sharpie mark on your chef whites, and you're going to need to get that out. So that usually happens at the beginning of the semester. I know there's one RA that claims that right now, but I'm sure there'll be one that will kind of roll that one over.
Laundry is something that we're constantly talking about.
Definitely. And no matter how much you do it, you can't keep up with it.
Right. Okay, we've got a lot of questions still coming in, and we only have about 10 minutes left of our webinar today. So, thank you all so much for submitting questions, but I'm going to get through as many as we can in these last 10 minutes. I'll ask this question to Sierra. Do you mind talking a bit more about how many classes sort of students take at one time? It's kind of I feel like a bit of a complicated answer because of the way that we do our block schedule. So why don't you just talk about a bit more like what a normal semester of classes can look like?
Yeah, so it really depends on like which semester you're in. But your first semester is your fundamentals class, which is like the biggest class you will take. So it's very, very important to like really focus on that. But at the same time, you're taking lecture classes. So you're taking like the basics of any college, like math and science and English and all that good stuff. But then once you get to like your second and your fourth semester, those are all about just like learning everything you possibly can. So you've got like a lot of production classes in your second semester. And then in your your fourth semester is all about like cuisines and stuff like that. So that's, those are the middle. And then in the last semester, it's all about working in the restaurant. If you're in the culinary side, it's different for bakers. They work in the cafe, but I'm not sure what else they do. But on the culinary side, we work in the restaurant. We do front of house, which is why I'm wearing a tie. And then we also work in the restaurant, like the kitchen portion of the restaurant, while at the same time we do the wines class.
Yeah, and I'll have Dominic, would you mind on behalf of bakers everywhere, what is the kind of normal schedule like for, a semester, or how the block classes work out?
It's almost exactly the same, except we're on the opposite side of the kitchen. Yeah, during fundamentals, you are taking your other classes. So you have your math class, and then for us, we have our baking science class, and then the food safety class, a college writing class. But then as you move up in semesters, it goes up to each block. So, there's a class on breads, there's a class on small pastries that are each boxed up, and then a class on all the basic like cakes that you learn from like all the centuries that have come before, and all, and then when it comes to our fifth semester, like she said, we're in the cafe for the first 6 weeks. So the first block, Oliver and I, we were in the front of the house together. So we learned how to make coffees, and we learned how to interact with our guests and what we should do and like what we should not do. And then after those 3 weeks, we moved to the back of house, and we were in the kitchen, and we got to work on pastry for a couple of days. I was mainly on the bread station in the mornings, and then I would go and work the line. Oliver got to run the kitchen pretty much as a group leader in the back there with us. It's a great time. And then after that, we had our whole block of wines. And then now we're moving on to our plated desserts class with Chef Angela.
Yeah, and for any of our admitted students, don't worry, you are going to get your schedule prior to coming to campus. So you'll be able to review that and understand a bit more so of like, how students, they do things in blocks. It's not very often that you'll have a class that lasts the entire semester. The main exception is that culinary fundamentals course that you take your first semester. All right, Oliver, I'm going to ask you this next question. Are there job opportunities after students graduate?
Yes, for sure. I know that the CIA name will get you to a lot of places. Just having that little runner at the end, I mean, it turns heads. It gets people to open up that email in the beginning, and people are honestly, they know the college, they know the caliber of skill that students have coming out of the school, and so a lot of places are really eager to actually get you in for a stage and see what you're really like. So it's definitely a very competitive industry. And so, but like I said earlier, you have all the skills you need, you stand out in the kitchen, and there's no way you won't be able to find a place.
Definitely. I have this story that I love to tell, especially to any of our students who are, asking this exact same question of like, can I make sure that I'm going to have a job when I graduate? I was actually talking with one of our baking and pastry alums not too long ago, and I was asking him, I was like, how has it been working in the pandemic? Were you able to get a job? And he was like, oh, Ella, it took me so long to get a job. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that. How long? And he was like, it took me 2 whole weeks after I graduated. And I was like, Oh my gosh, stop it. Stop, because it took me, not in the pandemic, 3 to 4 months to find my job once I graduated with my philosophy degree, right? So our students have very marketable skills. They're very much sought after. I get calls all the time from recruiters who want to speak with all of them. And just like Oliver said, having CIA on your resume, it stands out. It's a competitive industry, but you'll definitely be within the short list for any position that you're applying for, because they know that you've had the best education. Okay, so this is going to be my last question of the evening or afternoon. And I actually want every single person to answer this question. So we're gonna go around. And that is this, for any student who is on the fence, whether they're about to start in our summer 2021 start date or our fall 2021 start date, maybe they're looking at other colleges, maybe they're trying to decide, do I go to college? Do I work in the industry? So essentially for anyone who's on the fence, who hasn't taken that full leap yet, what would you tell them? Is this been worth it for you? I'm going to go ahead and have Jasenna start.
That was definitely something that I thought about when I first got accepted, because I was very much chasing after the acceptance. And then once I got it, I realized, like, whoa, how am I gonna afford that? There was a lot of questions that were immediately prompted with the reality check that was my acceptance. And I think the biggest thing for me was like taking a second and imagining what it would be like if I wasn't here, what things I would be missing out on, if I was going to be like severely upset that I wasn't, like if, looking at the social media, things like that, of like all these great things that CIA students get to do, or what they do after graduation, and what the name CIA does for us as we get into the industry. If I was going to be missing out on that, how that made me feel. And after I thought about that, I was like, I don't want to miss out on that. I want that opportunity to be a CIA graduate. And then being here, if something just clicked, like being here feels right. And you have to weigh that decision, of course, beforehand. But definitely if it feels like you're going to be really upset that you missed out on that opportunity, then that's your answer.
That's a great response. I could not have said it better myself. Dominic, I'm going to go to you next. What would you say to that person who's on the fence? Is it worth it?
Absolutely. For me, this was not something I ever thought I would be doing. I was a mechanic, so I was working on cars all the time, but I loved food. So I would work with an old friend, and like we would cater together, and then I fell in love with food and working with it. And I had never baked anything before, and I was talking to an old family friend just about like, I might want to go to culinary school, it just seems great. And he was just like, well, if you're gonna go, then you might as well go to the best one. And I applied here, and I had a tour with Allison and with you, Ella, and I still remember that day that Allison called me for my acceptance, and I was just like, it felt like home when I was there for my tour, and I knew that I wanted to be here.
I love that. And I remember the day that you visited. That was an open house within my first couple of months of starting at the CIA. Rami, as our newest student on campus, how would you respond? Has this been worth it?
This is where it's at. This is where it's at. As soon as the opportunity arose, I jumped on it. It was a dream of mine since I was a child. And the second this past summer that it became a possibility, I jumped on it. And for those where the price is hard to consider, there are a lot of scholarship opportunities that open up for you in your second semester. There's $5,000, $2,500. I've seen some $10,000 scholarships just for some essays. So if that's what's kind of determining your ability to come here, don't be discouraged. There are ways to pay for this school.
That's a really fantastic response. So thank you for being a little bit more thoughtful about some of these other aspects of this education. Sierra, how would you respond?
So I knew that I should be here and that I needed to come here as soon as I got my call from Allison. I actually have it still like recorded and like saved to my phone. So it's my like little cheer up thing on my phone. But this is definitely like the place that if you want to be in the food industry, you need to come here. This is the place to learn. This is the best and only place you should be coming to learn. I wouldn't regret anything that I've made and everything that I've done here. I wouldn't trade it for anything. So yeah. And then also on the scholarship thing, you can start in your first semester. I mean, I started as soon as I got here and I was looking at scholarships and like I was able to get almost my entire degree paid for. You just have to really go out there and look for it.
Yeah, absolutely. The resources are there, the money is out there, but you do have to be willing to go for it, right? Which our students never hesitate to do. Oliver, you're going to be our last our last response of the evening. What would you say? Is it worth it?
Yes, and like 1,000 times yes. I mean, I've had so many moments at this school that I mean, you couldn't change the world. I mean, one time it was like 8 o'clock in the morning in front of the school. I was picking figs off of the tree in front of the school, and you just kind of look over the valley with like, the sun just kind of peeking over the hills, and you just look and you think, you're like, wow, like this, like only at the CIA, right? Like there's just so many opportunities here, and I've met amazing people that I mean ultimately will help me throughout the rest of my career at this school. And so yeah, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I mean, people, I mean, everyone on this panel, I mean, absolutely amazing. And you bond through the struggles, and this cake didn't turn out, and so you go cry in the walk-in, and like all these unique little moments that no one else would understand at all, but you're like-minded people who get it, like, oh, that rosette not right, like not at all, and they'll be like, yeah, you could do better, like come on, like step it up, like we're all here for each other, and it's such a unique community. And yeah, I don't even have enough time. Like I could have a whole panel on this, but yeah, no, I 100% come here, get the experience, meet the people, and just welcome welcome to the new world, man. It's crazy.
What a perfect ending to an already fantastic hour. Unfortunately, that was our last question. I, of course, could keep talking to all of you for hours. I already have many times on campus and throughout your application process. But I know that Dominic has to get his hair cut, so we will we will cut it at the 4:30. Yes. Thank you all so much for joining our final admitted student chat, and thank you to our panelists for taking the time. I know you have lots of homework, so I really appreciate it, and I know that our admitted students do as well. For any questions about the enrollment process, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're here to help. We want to see you at the school. You're more than welcome to reach out to enrollment@culinary.edu. Or of course, your at times overly enthusiastic admission counselors here in admissions. We look forward to welcoming you all on campus very soon and making you a part of our Greystone community. Thank you again, and good night.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.